Help me.
Yes.
Thank you. No, I was not dying, but I appreciate it.
Is the Moto Razr 50 Ultra. On the new Razr 50 Ultra, you get a cover display that's gone double XL. You get beefier internals, a hardware makeover, interesting camera upgrades, and a whole lot of AI. Here are my quick first impressions of the Razr 50 Ultra. Starting with the double XL cover display. At 4 inches, it's the world's largest cover display on a flip phone, which is there on the Razr 50 Ultra. The best part is Motorola's engineers actually managed to do all of this without changing the size of the phone, because they cut off the bezels that were here and here. So from 3.6 inches, they could go to 4 inches. And because of this, you get a lot of screen estate, of course, cutting through the dual camera setup on the rear. And the very first time I laid my eyes on this cover display, I was like, wow, this is impressive. And you know what? Motorola didn't make any compromises with the display tech either. It's a 1272 by 1080 resolution panel with LTPO AMOLED technology, and you get a peak refresh rate of 165 Hz as well. It can also touch a peak brightness of 2400 nits on the cover display when you're watching HDR content, and in HBM mode it can go up to 1500 nits. And you know what? Even the outer display supports Dolby Vision, at least technically. I'll talk about that. And there's a layer of Gorilla Glass witness protection on top of the display. Here's the thing, all of these specs that I mentioned except for Gorilla Glass witness is all true for the 6.9-inch inner display as well. Of course, the resolution is different and the peak brightness can reach 3000 nits. That's also different. And because of this, when you switch from the outer display to the inner display, of course, the software switches seamlessly and there is consistency as well in the colors displayed, in the refresh rate, and to a large extent in screen brightness as well, because of course, human eyes cannot measure nits by looking at it. And oh, by the way, the crease is almost non-existent. Motorola has done some really good work here, and you can notice it only when you go very close to it and look at it under a studio light or something. I do have a couple of concerns though. Firstly, while this display does support Dolby Vision, the inner and the outer display, you do not get Dolby Vision support on Netflix. Now, thanks to LTPO, when I was using the phone in the system UI, the display would refresh down to 1 Hz, which is fantastic. But in system UI, it never goes to 165 Hz. This is not a problem per se, but I had to mention that. Now, if you want to see the 165 Hz refresh rate in action, you will have to play a game with high refresh rate support, for example, Alto's Odyssey, and within the game mode, you have to force refresh 165 Hz. Now, here are the things that you cannot do with the cover display on the Razr 50 Ultra. And once again, you can also set Mo on the lock screen, and he keeps doing these cute things all day long. He goes to work, he sleeps, he drinks, he eats. Wait, that's me. Alright, once unlocked, you also have different panels, of which Spotify is a new panel, and it's so well designed. I really love it. Now, one thing I must mention is that while you can run apps, you have to force press the navigation bar if you want to run it full screen without, the black bar. But when you force the full screen mode, some elements of the app can get cut out, and sometimes this is very important, like for example, the send button when you want to send a message. So that could be a problem. But it's a fair enough trade-off if you ask me. This display is damn gorgeous. You also get a Google Gemini integration right on the lock screen. Plus, if you buy the Razr 50 Ultra, Motorola is giving you 2 months of Google Gemini Advanced for free. So go wild. And obviously, you can use the cover display as an external viewfinder, so the person who is being shot can see the frame. And there is something interesting in the form of cartoons that Motorola has added, which is kind of cute. Talking about the camera, with the clamshell design, you generally get the handycam mode, right? So the moment you open it like this, it starts capturing a video, which is nice. But Motorola has added a touchpad-like interface on this part of the display, so you can swipe up to zoom in and swipe down to zoom out. And of course, in apps that support it, you also do get the flex mode. Now, before I talk about the rest of the software, why don't you go to where you have Hello UI based on Android 14, and Motorola is promising 3+4 years of software updates. And Hello UI also has a few generative AI features, which we explored in the Edge 50 Ultra. For example, you get that magic canvas wallpaper generator, and you have a bunch of AI features for the camera as well. For example, AI zoom and AI, Steadicam. But more than these AI features, I love Smart Connect. Basically, you can connect your phone to any PC of your choice, and you can stream apps. You can use your phone as a webcam. You can share files across these devices. You can use your PC's mouse and keyboard to control your phone as well. Apart from Smart, now, while the cover display is larger, the size largely remains unchanged from the Razr 40 Ultra. It's still as compact, it's still very comfortable to hold and use. Plus, I like this vegan leather back on the rear and the Pantone collaboration with the colors that Motorola has going. There's a green color variant which has a little bit of a coarse texture on the back, but this blue color variant that I've been using has a strip in the center which has a smoother texture, so you get this dual texture feel. I like it. By the way, the hinge is also lighter now. It's only 15 grams and yet it's very sturdy. In fact, opening the phone with one sweeping motion was slightly difficult. Once you get the hang of it, you can do it, but it shows that the hinge is sturdy. And the hinge is also rated for 6 lakh folds. You also get IP68 rating on the phone, which is definitely an upgrade. But it's still the same USB 2.0 Type-C port. They could have used USB 3.1. Now, the haptic feedback tuning is the best I have experienced on a Motorola phone yet. In fact, the vibration is tight and precise even on the cover display as well. Plus, there are system level integrations too. For every step of volume change, you can feel the haptic feedback. And I must say this, the speakers sound rich, loud, and extremely detailed. I was really surprised at the performance. Take a listen to it right next to the Edge 50 Ultra and let me know what you guys think. Internally, you have the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 and only a single variant. So you get a 12GB LPDDR5X RAM type and 512GB of UFS 4.0 storage. That apart, you also get support for 17 5G bands, Wi-Fi 7, NFC, and the call quality is fantastic. In fact, you get support for Crystal Call technology, not just on the internal display, but also on the cover display when you make calls. Yes, you can take calls with the cover display closed. Talking about performance, the benchmark scores were definitely not the best that we achieved for the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3. We got lower Antutu and Geekbench scores than normal. And since it's a clamshell design, thermal management takes a hit too, but this is true for all flip phones. So essentially, the chipset used to buy any clamshell foldable phone should give you smooth experiences, and now with the 8S Gen 3, you also get AI enabled on top of it. But if you're a gamer, this phone is not for you. Moto has also increased the size of the battery to 4000 mAh now. I didn't get much time to test it extensively, but here's my usage in the day that I've been testing it. And yeah, the charging speed has also been bumped to 45 watts, and you can charge the phone from 0 to 100 in about 47 minutes, which is not too bad. Plus, you get support for wireless charging as well, 15 watts. Now, with the 2-camera setup on the rear, it's like Motorola heard my prayers specifically. The ultra-wide now makes way for a 2x telephoto camera. I've always been team zoom, and if you're team ultra-wide, I can't be your friend. Sorry. So the 50MP primary camera takes nice details, the dynamic range is particularly good, but the colors are a tad off. In fact, the 2x camera captures slightly more accurate colors, and therefore you will see a bit of a color shift between the primary and the 2x camera. Skin tones are not the most accurate, but still the pictures look sharp and good. Plus, the portrait mode at 50mm is very nice. Although I'm not a big fan of that 85mm portrait. Now, low light shots actually look pretty impressive with a good amount of details being captured with no color variance from the real scene. There's also the 32MP punch hole selfie camera on the inside, but why would you want to use that when you can use the rear cameras like this and take selfies? Way better looking selfies, because the selfie camera on the inside doesn't have autofocus, whereas the rear camera has autofocus and shallower depth of field. It just looks so much better. Although this is where I miss the ultrawide